While South Africans are digesting the news that the economy is not doing well after the GDP figures came down at 2.3%, some business investors believe that it's not all that bad in the country. They believe that the economy will be doing well in not so distant future. Some economists say that some economic spin-offs will show when the investment commitments start to kick in later in the year. And in terms of direct foreign investment over the past few years in South African companies, it reflects that many sectors of the economy are experiencing very challenging times. However, with business mergers and acquisitions, there are possibilities of further investment in the South African economy. For more on this, we are joined from our Durban studios by Andrew Bahlmann, who is the Managing Director of Deal Leaders Africa. Andrew, good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
All right. And Andrew, well, there seems to be a proposition by deal breakers in South Africa that all is not that bad on the South African economy. On what basis are you really arguing that point?
Yeah, look, I think it's important to always be positive. We deal both with local and international businesses, and having just been on an international trip, we're seeing a number of international investors still looking at specific industries in South Africa, as well as a number of our clients performing particularly well in tough economic times. So a lot of it is based on fact. It's not far-reaching in the entire economy, but we're definitely seeing pockets of positivity.
So how can the mergers and acquisitions really enhance the performance of the South African economy?
I think one has to look at specific industries in which South Africa is still attractive to the international markets. Currency weakness can be attractive in certain service industries and certain infrastructure industries. And I think it's still to educate a lot of international investors. I found it amazing in Europe a week and a half ago how little a lot of people still knew about this part of the world. There's obviously a lot they see in the media, but as far as size of specific markets and more importantly growth opportunities that potentially exist both in South and Sub-Saharan Africa, it was quite an eye-opener for them. So I think a large part of it is probably to do a lot more as an investment destination and almost compartmentalize certain areas of positive growth and try and separate that from some of the negative input that the world is seeing.
So how do these mergers acquisitions play out, and then how do you differentiate them from companies acquiring equity in those companies? Because you will remember that in some changes there would be right sizing, and that will also speak to retrenchments and people losing their jobs. So won't that be a negative effect?
What we're seeing is, particularly with the international investment side, I think the geographic location of South Africa is a benefit. That we're generally far away from Europe and the US, and a lot of the acquirers aren't messing with a recipe that works. So I think there is a lot of negative connotations and press around what happens post these mergers or acquisitions. But in real terms, a lot of it is done looking for growth. I mean, most acquirers or investors are wanting growth. And essentially that is, particularly from an international standpoint, it's a longer term versus a 3 to 5 year turnaround. So from that perspective, there's definitely an investment, one, buying into the company, another one is around growing it. And luckily enough, a large part of the South African economy is still very much driven from labour and by labour. So, based on our experience, we're seeing these investments happening and there being a growth trajectory versus cutting into the muscle of the business and messing around with the labor force and the likes.
Why are the owners of these companies wanting out, and why do they want mergers and acquisitions? If a company have access to funding, then why are they not getting that funding and then producing more and employing more people?
Again, when I look at our portfolio, so we're probably working on about just over 40 transactions. Ironically, the biggest influencer is generational. We've got a number of clients, the majority actually, who are 55 years old plus, whose their children and the likes aren't interested in taking over the business. So one has to look at a lot more than just funding. It's also, timeline, risk, and energy. And I think a lot of the entrepreneurs that we've been working with, their businesses have reached a size where it needs to be corporatized. So, be it a local acquirer or investor or somebody from an international standpoint, it really needs that next stage of its life cycle, if you like. So it really is, in our experience, a situation where it's time for, new blood and new energy to take the reins of these businesses. And, one is at a growth level and the other is at a transformation level. But, so it's definitely a blend, but I can comment on our portfolio that a lot of it is generational.
Will this ever help the South African economy to grow?
Definitely. I look at, past transactions where, international or local investors have bought into our clients' businesses and have helped them grow. The spin-off has definitely been a lot more local stimulation of the economy, employment, growth, and further investment. So, I think it's looking at the makeup of the economy, that middle band of I suppose, your SME type entities is really the backbone or a large part of the backbone of our economy. So, I think, look, it's not without its own challenges, but a lot of these international investors are experienced, and the fact that the funds are coming in and they're taking a 10-year view, some of them even up to a 15-year view, speaks to the fact that there isn't this investment to bleed out dividends, and cut back as much as possible, but more around leaving that investment and that stimulus, if you like, in the economy for as long as possible.
All right. Andrew, thank you very much for making time to speak to us. And Andrew is coming to us live from our Durban studios, talking about the South African economy, that not all is bad, and through mergers and acquisitions with companies that want to invest on local South African companies, especially small businesses, can help them to grow and create employment. And we'll see how that pans